What's going on, guys? This is Aaron from Departures Capital. We're here with Dr. Matt Coffey, President and Chief Executive Officer at Oncolytics Biotech. Nice to have you on, Matt. How are you doing today?
Good, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So can you start by telling us a bit about yourself and how you became involved with Oncolytics Biotech?
Sure. I've been very fortunate. This project was actually my doctoral thesis. And it started off very different. We were working with the virus that we are because it's not a pathogen. You can give it to grad students and not worry about them getting sick. But it is related to other viruses. And we thought if we understood how one virus grew, we could understand how other viruses. And during the conduct of my PhD, we came to realize that we could only grow the virus in cancer cells. And the fact that it would replicate and stimulate the immune system so readily really led us from a basic virology platform into one that became a cancer platform. And during this time, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. So the project became very dear to me, and a lot of the initial research we did was actually looking at breast cancer lines and breast cancer tissue. And now we've come full circle. We're just completing a phase 2 in metastatic breast cancer with our co-development partner, Pfizer. And we're looking to start a phase 3 program in hormone receptor positive disease, which is the largest subset of breast cancer. And we've shown some early data there that it looks like we can nearly double their overall survival. So we're really quite excited about the prospects.
Wow, that's very interesting. So Oncolytics Biotech is focused on pelareorep, a safe and well-tolerated intravenously delivered immunotherapeutic agent that activates the innate and adaptive immune system. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. It's when we initially started this project, we were thinking it would go into the cancer cell and the virus would blow up the cancer cell and eliminate it, which is a process called lysis. Really what we're doing is we're just pointing the immune system to the tumor because when a cancer grows in the body, it derives from our cells. So our immune system doesn't see it normally as a threat. So as opposed to labeling, think lysis. And an example that a colleague said to me is he said, "Oh, you're like purple dye in those bank robbery movies." And I didn't get it. And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, when the anonymous guy slinks into the bank and he passes the note to the teller, asking for non-sequential 100s, she gives him a hockey bag full of cash and he anonymously strolls out and opens the bag and it explodes in that purple dye." So you've taken something that was anonymous and invisible in the population and you've made it extremely visible. And this is what we're doing. We introduce the virus into the bloodstream. It gets taken up in normal cells, but it can't replicate there because normal cells will see it, eliminate it. But cancer cells lose that. So when it starts to replicate, the first phase of our immune system is the innate phase, and that's our natural killer cells. And that's sort of the most basic immune system. It's like the NK cells are very much like policemen patrolling the street, knocking on doors, looking for something, that's not supposed to be there. And all of a sudden, the virus is there and it makes the cell just look different. So the natural killer cells start eliminating those cells. And by doing so, they start to educate the immune system. And then we get the adaptive immune cells. So whereas the natural killer cells are like basic policemen, the adaptive immune system, which is largely T cells, they're really like special forces. They're educated, they're reactive, they'll form long-term memory. And basically what we end up getting is through the viral infection is recognition of the tumor and then long-term immunity. What we find is the immune system will have a long-term recognition of these tumors for the patient. So the virus is basically just educating the immune system to target and eliminate disease.
Very interesting. So Oncolytics Biotech provided an enrollment update on their multi-indication phase 1 and 2 gastrointestinal cancer trial. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. We announced that in collaboration with Roche and Solti, our development partners, we're trying to find indications that really haven't responded to immune therapies like immune checkpoint inhibitors. So our focus where we think we'll be in the phase 3 position earliest is in breast cancer, which is an indication that really hasn't historically responded to immune therapies. With what we announced earlier this week, in collaboration with Roche, we're looking at GI malignancies, notably PANC and some forms of colorectal, that have failed to respond to checkpoint blockade. So what we're doing is we're remodeling the tumor so that other immunotherapies like immune checkpoint inhibitors can work. And something like an immune checkpoint inhibitor is a new field in immuno-oncology. And as opposed to targeting the tumor, it's targeting the immune system. So it's really ramping up your T cells to direct them to the tumor. So how the virus can work with that is it changes the tumor so it becomes very porous or inviting for these T cells. Normally the tumor would want to restrict it, and it creates a lot of new T cells. So it's like raising an army and providing them with GPS to actually get to the tumor. So we've demonstrated that we can take a tumor like HR positive breast cancer and make it susceptible to checkpoint inhibition. And this is important because what we're looking at with immune checkpoint inhibitors is a $55 billion market by 2025 that will only work in 1 in 5 patients. So we think by combining it with pelareorep, we can take that 1 in 5 and make it 2 in 5 and 3 in 5, and just provide a lot more patients with a lot more opportunity to use their own immune system to eliminate the disease.
It's pretty amazing what you guys are doing. So why should prospective investors take a closer look at Oncolytics Biotech?
This is, I think, going to be a watershed year for the company. We're publishing a lot of data and presenting a lot of data in breast cancer, specifically HR positive disease. We have presentations starting in the spring and going all the way through the fall that will validate this approach and really explain why it works with checkpoint inhibitors. Now, we've already done one randomized study, which counts for half of our registration program. So we're only one study away from having this approved on the market. So the work that we're doing with Pfizer and Roche in breast really catalyzes what that phase 3 will look like so that our investors can participate in that success without there being a lot of risk. We are just completing the enrollment into that Pfizer co-development. We anticipate that being a late Q1 event. So we'll be able to have a readout later this year. In behind that, we are presenting long-term survival data in glioblastoma multiforme. Last year, we presented some pretty impressive progression-free survival, but really what we want to be able to see is long-term survival. That'll be presented later this year. And importantly, we're expanding, as you pointed out, into new indications beyond breast. So this is a year where the analysts and investors can start, doing their models based on not only breast cancer indications, but indications like brain and indications like panc and colorectal, which just really expand the utility of this. Now, how this agent works, as I said, it's to stimulate the immune system. So it should work well beyond checkpoint inhibitors. And we had numerous parties looking at this in the context of chimeric T cells or CAR T, which is a fundamentally drastic change in how immuno-oncology is done, as well as bispecific antibodies. So we're diversifying the product. And as we announced today, through our partners in China, we're actually expanding the markets into the Asian markets as well. So 2022 is a year where we'll see broader markets, new indications, and new treatment combinations that really get us on our way to that phase 3 program.
Yeah, that should be an exciting year for you guys. So what are some of the major catalysts investors should be looking out for this year?
Well, I think a lot of our investors are really looking for that data on the breast cancer. So we'll have final data on AWARE. That's the agreement with Roche. We'll have top-line data presented in the fall, which really gets us into the phase 3 program with that co-development agreement with Pfizer, which is called Bracelets. We'll have presentations on glioblastoma multiforme, including the survival, multiple myeloma survival data, additional, hopefully, partnerships in the CAR T space this year, updates on Goblet, which is, again, the expansion or the expanded Roche agreement into GI cancers, as well as hopefully some clarity around what our phase 3 registration path looks like and timelines to get us there, and hopefully a partnership to really assist in that development of the phase 3.
Well, that's great. So what is the one thing you're most excited about for Oncolytics in the near term?
I think, this has been a long road, and I think the data that we generated last year and the data we're generating this year really crystallize how broadly applicable this agent is and how many patients we can help. So I think, having clarity on the phase 3, having clarity on other indications that works in, moving towards partnerships in these various areas, it'll be an exciting year for us. So I think moving into that phase 3 is probably the thing I'm most excited about.
Definitely. I'm excited to cover it, and best of luck for you guys. So where's the best place for investors to find out more information about the company?
Well, obviously through you guys. Also, our website is oncolyticsbiotech.com. We just put out a shareholder letter, so that explains, last year it might be a good place to start. You can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, or you can reach out to our director of IR and communications, John Patton, at jpatton@oncolytics.ca.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Matt. Best of luck with everything. I know it'll be a busy year.
Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate it. It's always good to see you.
If you like these videos, kindly hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications. Drop us a comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. And finally, always remember Departures Capital is for information, education, and entertainment purposes only. Don't buy or sell a stock because you heard it on here. Buy or sell a stock because you've done your research, you've done your thorough due diligence, and you're making your own personal investment decisions for yourself. This video is not financial advice. Furthermore, this video may or may not have been sponsored by the companies that we've profiled within this video, and we may or may not own shares of any of the profiled companies in this video. If you want to know the full disclosure details, check the description down below along with thoroughly reading our disclaimer. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.